Imagine living in a city so wealthy, it shines like a symbol of limitless possibility, where skyscrapers kiss the clouds, luxury cars hum down spotless highways, and fortunes are made in a single trade. Yet behind the glittering skyline, one truth rattles. This same city let $10 billion slip through its fingers. $10 billion, a sum that could transform entire nations, gone in a storm of delays, scandals, and half-built dreams. So how did the so-called richest city in the world waste so much? Today, we're pulling back the curtain on one of the costliest mistakes of modern times. The story begins not with loss, but with ambition. The city at the heart of this tale, Dubai, was not always the gleaming capital of extravagance we know today. Only a few generations ago, its economy leaned on pearl diving and small-scale trade. Then came oil, and with it, the spark that transformed sand into steel and ambition into towers taller than imagination. Dubai's leaders saw beyond oil, knowing the wells would one day run dry. They decided to turn their city into a global hub for commerce, tourism, and luxury living. In just a few decades, their vision reshaped the skyline. The Burj Khalifa, Palm Jumeirah, and endless glass-fronted skyscrapers became symbols of a city that refused to be ordinary. By the early 2000s, Dubai was no longer just an emirate. It was a statement. According to Seed Group, its gross domestic product soared into the hundreds of billions, and its reputation as a playground for the wealthy spread across the globe. High-end shopping malls, record-breaking airports, and man-made islands drew millions of visitors every year. In less than half a century, Dubai had built an image of endless possibility. But even in this environment of wealth and ambition, $10 billion stood out. It was not pocket change. For perspective, $10 billion could fund dozens of hospitals, thousands of schools, or entire networks of high-speed rail. To see it spent, lost, or mismanaged raised eyebrows around the world. Because wealth alone does not guarantee wisdom, and in this case, it set the stage for one of the most infamous financial blunders in urban history. Dubai's rise explains why the project we're about to explore carried so much weight. The city had built a brand on the promise of doing the impossible, of proving skeptics wrong. Every new announcement was met with anticipation. Every construction site treated like a glimpse into the future. That's why, when leaders unveiled their $10 billion vision, it was received not with doubt, but with applause. People expected the city that built the tallest tower to deliver once again. And at first, the plan sounded flawless. The spending wasn't framed as indulgence, but as necessity. A way to cement Dubai's place as the beating heart of global commerce. The project was supposed to create jobs, draw investment, and stand as a landmark of progress. But the journey from promise to reality turned out to be far more complicated than anyone expected. The centerpiece of this story is the Dubai Expo 2020 project, a sprawling event designed to showcase innovation, culture, and global unity. Hosting the expo was more than just a chance to throw a grand party. It was a bid for global recognition, a way to prove that Dubai could stand alongside New York, London, and Paris as a world leader. When Dubai won the hosting rights in 2013, celebrations erupted across the emirate. Fireworks lit up the desert sky, and leaders promised that the expo would be unlike anything the world had ever seen. The price tag? A staggering $10 billion. Officials laid out the plan with confidence. The expo grounds would span over 1,000 acres, featuring futuristic pavilions from more than 190 countries. UN Press noted that the theme, Connecting Minds, Creating the Future, was chosen to signal ambition beyond borders. Visitors would be treated to cutting-edge technology displays, sustainability showcases, and entertainment on a scale Dubai had never attempted before. It was a vision of global unity dressed in the language of progress. Beyond the event itself, the expo was sold as an investment in the city's future. The infrastructure built for it, new roads, metro expansions, and sprawling hotels, would remain long after the closing ceremony. Leaders pitched it as a once-in-a-lifetime chance to accelerate growth, boost tourism, and strengthen Dubai's global brand. The project would not just pay for itself, it would generate long-term returns for decades to come. But between the promise and the delivery lay a maze of problems. The expo faced not only logistical challenges, but also global crises, management missteps, and accusations of inflated costs. As months turned into years, what began as a celebration of progress transformed into a symbol of mismanagement. This is where the cracks began to show. For a city built on spectacle, even the grandest promises can come undone when reality refuses to cooperate. If you're finding this story eye-opening, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe. We break down global megaprojects and the lessons hidden behind them, and you don't want to miss what's coming next. When the Expo 2020 dream was first announced, leaders painted a picture of precision and unstoppable momentum. But behind closed doors, the reality was far less glamorous. Instead of smooth planning, the project quickly became a web of delays, redesigns, and questionable decisions that drained both time and money. The first major obstacle was the sheer scale of the expo. Building a site large enough to host millions of visitors required not just architectural brilliance, but flawless logistics. Roads had to be widened, new metro lines extended, and dozens of hotels prepared to handle the incoming flood of tourists. On paper, this was achievable. In practice, the deadlines clashed with harsh desert conditions, supply chain weaknesses, and inconsistent leadership. Early feasibility studies underestimated the engineering challenges. The site, located in Dubai South, sat on land that needed significant preparation before construction could even begin. Engineers discovered soil stability issues, forcing additional groundwork and pile reinforcements. These setbacks added months to the timeline and inflated costs that were never fully disclosed to the public. Then came the redesigns. As with many high-profile projects in Dubai, aesthetics often overshadowed practicality. Original pavilion designs were scrapped midway, replaced with grander, more futuristic blueprints meant to dazzle international audiences. Each change meant revisiting budgets, renegotiating contracts, and sometimes tearing down structures that had already been partially built. The result was wasted materials, wasted labor, and mounting frustration among contractors. Leadership changes only worsened the chaos. Different administrative bodies took turns managing the project, each bringing in new priorities and new consultants. This lack of continuity disrupted momentum, leaving teams uncertain about who was truly in charge. Without consistent oversight, miscommunication spread across departments. Contractors blamed officials for unclear directives, while officials accused contractors of inefficiency. The finger-pointing culture slowed progress at every turn. Adding to the complications, global events reshaped the timeline in ways no one could have predicted. The outbreak of COVID-19 in 2020 forced a one-year postponement of the expo, sending ripples through already fragile schedules. Supply chains collapsed as ports closed, leaving construction materials stranded overseas. Labor became unpredictable as health restrictions limited workforce availability. Each week of delay translated into millions in additional costs, all while the city scrambled to maintain the image of control. These cumulative problems revealed a larger truth. While Dubai excelled at visionary announcements, execution was far from fragile. Unlike smaller projects that could absorb hiccups, a $10 billion global event demanded flawless planning. But instead of efficiency, the expo became a case study in how even wealthy cities can buckle under poor project management. At the center of it all was the public's growing skepticism. Residents and observers began to question whether the grand promises would ever match reality. Each missed deadline chipped away at confidence, while leaked reports hinted at ballooning expenses that no one wanted to acknowledge publicly. What began as excitement turned into doubt, and doubt soon shifted into criticism. The delays, redesigns, and mismanagement didn't just waste time, they wasted trust. And trust, once lost, is harder to rebuild than any pavilion or metro line. This erosion of credibility set the stage for even more damaging revelations. The money itself was not being handled as transparently as promised. If construction missteps bruised the Expo's reputation, the financial scandals nearly shattered it. As budgets swelled and deadlines slipped, whispers of corruption grew louder. By the time the event finally opened, the question was no longer whether Dubai had overspent, but where exactly the $10 billion had gone. Audits revealed that many contracts had been awarded under opaque conditions. Subcontractors reported inflated prices for everything from steel beams to basic construction equipment. Some suppliers billed at rates far above market value, while others were paid for services that never fully materialized. These discrepancies pointed to a familiar culprit in global megaprojects: padded contracts designed to funnel extra cash into private pockets. Whistleblowers also came forward with stories of insider deals. According to reports, certain companies with political connections secured major contracts despite lacking relevant experience. These firms often subcontracted the actual work to smaller, more capable groups, pocketing the difference without adding real value. This practice drained funds while lowering accountability, since responsibility became fragmented across layers of middlemen. Mobilization fees added another layer of suspicion. In theory, these upfront payments were meant to help contractors prepare for large-scale operations. In practice, they often disappeared without clear records of how they were spent. Some contractors allegedly used the money for unrelated ventures, leaving Expo officials scrambling to cover gaps. The lack of oversight allowed millions to vanish before work even began. Investigations into these financial irregularities were limited, and few led to prosecutions. Dubai, keen to protect its image as a global hub, avoided the kind of public scandals that might deter investors. But this discretion came at a cost. Many citizens and observers felt the system protected insiders while leaving taxpayers to shoulder the burden. The issue wasn't just money lost, it was money diverted from public good. Every dirham spent on inflated contracts or ghost workers was a dirham that could have gone to healthcare, education, or long-term infrastructure. For ordinary residents, the Expo became less a source of pride and more of a reminder of inequality, where billions could vanish while everyday struggles remained unsolved. Media coverage added fuel to the fire. International outlets questioned how one of the wealthiest cities could lose control of its own finances. Headlines painted the Expo as not just a delayed event, but a symbol of extravagance gone wrong. The global spotlight, once an asset, now exposed flaws that Dubai preferred to keep hidden. Perhaps the most damaging effect was the erosion of credibility with international investors. Dubai had long marketed itself as a safe haven for global capital, a place where deals were honored and projects delivered. But the Expo scandals raised uncomfortable questions. If $10 billion could be mishandled so openly, what did that say about smaller, less visible investments? Trust is the lifeblood of global finance, and once cracked, it takes years to repair. In the end, the financial scandals surrounding the Expo left a stain that no fireworks show could fully erase. Dubai delivered a spectacle, yes, but at a price that far exceeded its value. What should have been a landmark of progress became a cautionary tale about unchecked ambition and weak accountability. The vanishing funds and shadowy deals confirmed what critics had long suspected. The world's richest city was not immune to the pitfalls of corruption. And while the buildings stood tall, the integrity of the system had been quietly undermined. As the cracks in the Expo 2020 project widened, the public's patience began to wear thin. For ordinary residents, the waste was not abstract, it was personal. Communities near the construction zone faced displacement with little compensation, while traffic disruptions and blocked roads added frustration to daily life. Promises of jobs for locals often failed to materialize, leaving many feeling excluded from the supposed prosperity of the event. The discontent spilled into protests and social media movements. Drone footage exposing deserted construction sites and half-finished pavilions went viral, sparking global conversations about accountability. Twitter threads and YouTube breakdowns painted the expo as a symbol of mismanagement rather than progress. Even jokes and memes captured the sentiment, spreading cynicism faster than official statements could counter. Internationally, the coverage turned unforgiving. Major outlets questioned how a city known for order and spectacle could falter so publicly. Critics highlighted the contradiction between Dubai's gleaming brand and the reality of squandered billions. Investors who once saw Dubai as a model of ambition began to ask tougher questions about transparency and governance. The backlash transformed the expo into more than just an event. It became a referendum on leadership and priorities. In a city where image is everything, this global scrutiny cut deeper than financial loss. It showed that even the richest cities cannot buy back public trust once it begins to slip away. When the expo finally opened in October 2021, it was with a mix of relief and skepticism. Much of the promised infrastructure had materialized, but at a staggering cost. The expo grounds featured striking national pavilions, advanced technology exhibits, and performance spaces that drew millions of visitors. Roads and metro extensions were completed, and new hotels lined the area, ensuring the event could run at scale. Yet behind the celebratory images, a different reality persisted. Several ambitious pavilions were scaled back or abandoned due to funding shortfalls. Some structures stood only as empty shells, hastily covered to avoid embarrassment. Others were completed but left underwhelming compared to the futuristic renderings that had originally sold the dream. Perhaps most telling was the uncertainty of legacy use. While officials promised the site would transform into a new district, District 2020 concerns lingered about its viability. Would businesses actually relocate there? Would residents want to live in what was once an event ground? Without long-term tenants and investment, there was risk the site could join the list of white elephant projects, grand but functionally empty. The contrast between what was built and what was abandoned highlighted the gap between ambition and execution. Yes, Dubai delivered a spectacle, but it fell short of the flawless vision first promised. What visitors saw was impressive, but what lay behind the scenes told a far more complicated story. The $10 billion expo left Dubai with more pride and scars. On one hand, it showcased engineering feats and global collaboration. On the other, it revealed how unchecked ambition and weak oversight can drain resources and erode trust. The long-term lesson is clear. Wealth cannot replace accountability, and spectacle is no substitute for sustainability. Future projects will demand not just vision, but discipline, because the cost of repeating mistakes is too high, even for the richest city on Earth. Even for the richest city, the lesson is simple. Vision without discipline leads to waste, and trust is harder to rebuild than money. I actually booked my last trip to Cancun for half the usual price, and I'm not gatekeeping. I used Expedia, and I've dropped my affiliate link below so you can grab the same deals. No extra cost to you, just real savings. I'm also truly grateful for your time and attention. I spend hours digging into stories like this and shaping them into something engaging. If you'd like to support that effort, buying me a coffee would be amazing. It keeps me fueled to make more. And don't miss the next video. We're going inside the $1 trillion smart city that may never be completed.